tonight is the first time that any of this material is being shared outside the walls of Mountain View Baptist Church. So it's very meaningful for me to be able to facilitate this discussion. I shared with our mayor a little bit earlier that I am keenly aware that I have the privilege of being a part of a story that began long before I showed up and will continue long after I'm gone. That is really the best way of experiencing humanity in the middle of time as we are in Greenville, watching Greenville become what it will be in the future. Mountain View Baptist Church is 115 years old, and I am the third minister in that 115 years, and I've been there 26 years. I had no idea these distinctions when I accepted that call to come. I was engaged to be married and headed to Virginia, Northern Virginia, to grad school, and got waylaid in Greenville, and I was only supposed to be here 6 months, and now it's been 26 years. So I don't want to hold your time, as pastors are known to do. So my presentation is two parts. The first is this 7-minute video that we created to commemorate the 115 years of Mountain View Baptist Church. I have to stage it this way because 1908 is the year when this church was founded in a mission. For many it was. 1911 was also a great year. It's a number great. Settle down now, settle down. So when we think about 1908 to that point, this is post-Reconstruction in the United States of America. This is segregated Greenville, South Carolina. And then moving through all of that history to desegregated Greenville, South Carolina, to urban renewal Greenville, South Carolina. And consistent in all of that is Mountain View Baptist Church for 115 years, place-based on the other side of the tracks. And I say that because we embrace all of what that colloquialism of being on the other side of the tracks actually means. That's not harmful to us. Our church was made up of domestic workers raising their families in shanty-style duplexes, quadruplexes, triplexes, and they were renting that property. And in my administration over the 26 years that I've pastored there, we have purchased all of that property. And we did it through, we did it very unconventionally. I've got to tell you this story and then I'll move on. The first 10 houses that we bought, we spent $50,000. Memorialized that. $50,000 is what we paid in cash for 10 houses in downtown Greenville. 10. And it was done with a handshake. It was done with a handshake with property owners who have owned not just residential, but corporate, commercial property. And there was a family that owned a lot of land, but they were used to doing business with a handshake. Well, I'm 24, 25 years old, born in Detroit, grew up in Spartanburg, now in Greenville, and you mean we're trading property with a handshake? So then I unconventionally started doing that on other parcels. And at the end of my messages, I would preach with a contract under my notes on a piece of property across the street that was $30,000. And when I was done preaching, I would say, now, I have a contract up here for land across the street, $30,000. I need 30 of you to bring me $1,000, 60 of you $500, or one of you can bring $30,000. But I have a closing date and I have zero money. They did it 41 times. 41 times. We've bought property and master planned it. I'm going to share that with you tonight. So the first thing that I want to share with you is this 7-minute video that commemorates 115 years of church. The second thing is a slide deck that shows the master plan of what AJ shared with you is our vision and master plan for Newtown.
I grew up in this church as a youngster. By the time I was about 4 or 5 years old. I had a very good life here.
Here, you learn to love people, to treat them right. The character of God was taught then and is taught now by our pastor Mills.
Mountain View Baptist Church was founded in 1908, and it was a central part of what's known as Creek in this community. In fact, when you hear terms like if the Lord is willing and the creek don't rise, there is really a creek that would impact how people were able to participate in worship. And then they purchased this land here and built a structure. I think this is maybe the third or fourth structure in this location, but has always been in this community as a central part of encouraging spiritual life, but also this was the center of the community. People came here not only for their spiritual guidance, but for their social guidance, for their education, as well as their family interactions. The church has been central to the Newtown community.
I left here in 1959, and the head changed it. The job was hard. Living was hard. Riding the city buses, we had to go to the back. So it was one of the greatest ideas of living at that time. But since I've been back, I've seen a tremendous change. And I'm happy to be here.
I've been at this church since I was knee-high to a adult. I lived in this neighborhood and I walked to church, not because my parents came, but because the community surrounded me. I enjoyed coming to church. It was like where I came to socialize, came to be a part of a community. We were a community and we still are a community.
I've been in Mountain View all my life. I journeyed when I was 12 years old. I was baptized in the back of the church. I remember speaking. I raised my children in faith with me, but I would bring them to Mountain View once a month, every Sunday. And when he got 12 years old, I brought him and let him join the church. Because I never moved my membership. I attended church on the Rockville. I never left Mountain View. Mountain View was always my home church. And I loved it.
I do feel welcome at Mountain View Baptist Church and leadership. I feel like I can grow. I feel like I can learn. I feel like other leaders are always helping and willing to help me understand ways how I can grow more in Christ, how I can have those Christ principles day in, day out, no matter what. Once my mother passed away in 2004, my grandmother, she took me under her wing, introduced me to Christ, and told me about forgiveness. And that was a growing stage for me then.
And I told my wife that Tandy that we would come here, Pastor Bill speak, so we came. But I wasn't living a safe life. And once I came here and sit on teaching and preaching to Pastor Bill's, my life changed. I grew a relationship with Christ. I got to know Christ as I should have known him. And my life
26 years ago, I came to see what my husband was doing here, because he was at the church all the time. So I really came to check up on him, but then the Lord touched me and brought me. When I first came here, I loved people and people loved me. And most of the time I was sick up under my mother because I was young and I would love this to still sin. Because it's not like it used to be, but it's much better, it's much better now. Because like everybody seems to get around each other. And that's what I love. I love people.
I believe that the whole world can be saved through Jesus. We were born again, that we were set free, we were redeemed because of God's love for the whole. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love will help us get delivered. Love that went to Calvary and died for us.
Thank you for listening and watching. I was standing over there critiquing. I'll figure out how to tweak this down. But I give you our master plan for the community. You've seen some of the historic aspects of what Mountain View has done. I told you a little bit of background on how we came to acquire the property that we have. We have zero debt on our current facility and any of our properties that we own. We have not liquidated any of them. So we were able to get a couple of grants to do this work. Hollingsworth Fund, Jolly Foundation gave us seed money early on to help us stand up what is the Community Development Corporation Parish House. When the pandemic happened, we were outside on the front steps having church. So we traded those pews for cars and lawn chairs and turned in amens to car horn honks. And we started receiving letters in the mail from people who were on the Swamp Rabbit Trail or riding their bikes over to Hampton Station. And saying that they stopped and they listened and they heard what we were saying, whether it was the choir singing or me preaching or whatever it was, and they sent contributions to us to support the work that we were doing. And so that is our, I guess, still us striking a stake in the ground for this community and being very much cemented in this area and literally on the other side of the tracks. So this kind of tells the story. It was very densely populated. 400 to 500 families lived in the neighborhood, and they literally built Mountain View Baptist Church, literally. And 400 to 500 families, not to be confused with 400 to 500 rooftops. Any developers, real estate folks in the room, the difference is the types of housing that was there. So we had duplexes, quadruplexes, triplexes that we purchased, and these are the pictures of it. Now, when I came to Mountain View, this is an accurate depiction of what would happen in a serious rainstorm. The last time this happened, I literally stood in my office and watched a man from somewhere in the woods swim across the Reed River with his clothes tied on his back in a trash bag. He got on the other side to higher ground, took those clothes out of that trash bag, got dressed, brushed himself off, and went on about his business. Talk about resilience right in front of you. But our North Star in leading our church is always restoring and preserving the dignity of people who have experienced hardship, but that hardship does not define who they are. This experience has been incredibly enlightening for me. I was an English major in undergrad. I never thought that I would be doing development, but I'm thankful to be a part of this process. So not to hold you, this is what the neighborhood looks like today, with Mountain View remaining in its center. And this property adjacent to the church in front, we own. I'm going to show you a different map. So on the front porch, preaching, having church, really folks in our church would drive up, come inside the building, experience worship, get in their car and drive away. When the pandemic happened and we're sitting on the land that we now own where most of these folks used to play, and something about ownership began to really penetrate. It didn't hurt that I was preaching a series that I wrote entitled Unite, Grow, Thrive during the pandemic, addressing moving from surviving to thriving. And so the entire year, our message is centered on unity, growth, and thriving. And our folks decided to found the Parish House Community Development Corporation, and we put a new roof on the church, put a new roof on the parsonage, gutted the parsonage, prepared it to become our offices for Parish House. Something spectacular happened for us during the pandemic, and people embraced what we were trying to do. So we wanted to go from this very drab depiction of what the neighborhood looked like to this idea of vibrancy. What can we capture? And I've shared many times that our desire is to create a cultural district that displays art, culinary, residences, history, all of it. We've traveled in this process kind of gathering information as best we can, and I'll share it with you as we go. Community engagement. I like to share this because the way we collected our information, and I think I have the right slide deck, is we did front porch interviews. Meaning we had a team of leaders, our kitchen cabinet, that went to the neighbors' houses, sat on the front porches, and talked about dreams and aspirations. What did they want to see in this neighborhood? Even though we own the property, we still wanted to give voice to people who lived there. And the second thing we did, AJ spoke to it, we held a couple of sessions with young Black professionals and folks like yourselves, many of yourselves, who like to play in Charlotte or Rock Hill or Atlanta, and really we wanted to extract and learn what is it that attracts you to those places and why is that not here in this community. My oldest son is a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point and got a student membership at the Dumbo. If you're familiar with these supper clubs, and I'm not calling it right, Dumbo is where it is, down under the Manhattan Bridge is what that stands for, bridge overpass, maybe, I don't know. But I know I went and experienced like these Soho houses, dinner clubs, where this kind of environment or activity would happen. So that's become a part of what we envision. We then did a 5-day charrette at our church where we turned the altar into a design studio with maps and design elements. And 250 people showed up at our church over 5 days to give input. Then on the 5th day, we partnered with Momentum Bike Club and invited a youth group to take a ride through the neighborhood, brought a historian from within the community and our church to ride with them. And then they ended up in Unity Park in the gathering room, and these young people had their own design charrette and sent that information back to us, which we compiled in our project. One of the strongest pieces that support what we've done is this cleanup. I was in DC yesterday and sometime before presenting to the Environmental Protection Agency and discussing these issues of environmental injustice that's happened over time, especially in our communities. So this slide shows what needs to happen for cleanup. We've had a small group over the last 3 years, I would say, with CSX Railroad, who owns the property, Duke Energy, who owned it when it was a manufactured gas plant and the spill happened, and DHEC for the state of South Carolina. So we've had a small group that's been working on this, and we're moving ahead, and our city's been involved with this as well to make sure that this is treated properly. And we don't want to hastily clean it up. We want it done right. So there'll be a community meeting for that as well that shows that. I do want to get to, well, that's it. So I didn't take up all the time. I'll pause. There are different variations of this slide that show the types of housing that we are proposing for the neighborhood. And so it's not in this, but I'll pause if there are any questions that you might have. For me, I'm happy to answer.
If someone did want to be an investment partner with you all, what type of process do you have with that? Is it open to public investing or is it private?
So thank you for that excellent question, because we are just getting to that phase. All of our income has been in-house. Obviously, we're at the phase where pro formas are important, and there will be a welcome opportunity for investment through what we're going to call Black Investment Group, BIG, and that's not original to us. We're borrowing that from the Greensboro Community Foundation that has an active Black Investment Group, but it's not just reduced for Blacks to invest in. Obviously, we want to welcome, all money isn't good money, but we do want to welcome partners to participate in this process. Y'all, we're going slow intentionally to stand up this operation the appropriate way, and to ensure that this remains for posterity and, like I said, those who are coming behind me as leaders. In fact, we're doing a leader shape every other Saturday. We've been doing this for a year, training 65 leaders to do what I'm doing tonight, to be able to own this and make it a part of their ability to talk about this. Corporate leadership strategies are in place. So I did want to kind of run through. One of the things you'll see in the city's LMO are these accessory dwelling units or secondary dwelling units, which help us to hold our own feet to the fire on affordability, because what we're proposing is a variety of housing types, but keeping in mind our need to contribute to our community in a wholesome and helpful way. So you'll see brownstone single family attached. You'll see single family detached cottages that will also have the ability to have a secondary dwelling unit behind it. We've seen some of these in the community. These are, in fact, these are from around our community. So these are attached townhomes, also with the secondary dwelling unit out back. These are a little bit larger parkside homes with a secondary dwelling unit. The lots are deep enough for us to be able to achieve that. These are stacked duplexes, which we've seen those in already deployed in this community, but they also have the ability to have the secondary dwelling units in the back. So this is another multifamily type that we proposed, and then of course ultimate multifamily types.
Early in the game, possibly. What is the price point you guys are shooting for a purchase?
It's real early in the game.
Yeah.
There are a lot of factors that really contribute to what's going to happen there. We're also creating, a design center that's going to hold the character of the neighborhood. So if you're buying in the community, and I'm not avoiding your question, I just don't have a solid answer for that, depending on what the market's like when we strike ground. Our aim is to keep it within affordability, especially townhomes. I mean, there could be a lease option to purchase that, and that can be a first-time home buyer situation. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I was in DC on a panel with top brass from Wells Fargo and Freddie Mac sharing this information, and Fannie Mae. I couldn't think of it a few minutes ago. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Wells Fargo sharing these details, and they are all wanting to be at the table to help with that. So it's really, those price points are going to really matter about investments, who's at the table with us when we get ready to put those pro formas out. And let me say this, we are a church. That's what we've been for 115 years. And somehow this pastor has talked the church into creating a subsidiary. And some folks said, sub what in the room? Yeah, doing business as. And so it's taken time to dot those I's and cross those T's. But we're being very deliberate. And we're wanting to be careful and represent the truth of the people who live there. When I came to Mountain View, I was fortunate enough to have 20 deacons. Their ages were, in my opinion, collectively older than the United States of America and Great Britain. I mean, they just were. All of them died upwards of 90. And I was there when they passed away. That was incredible for me. But these were people like George Washington, his real name, chair of the deacons when I came there, 96 years old when he passed away, first black employee of Piedmont Natural Gas in Greenville, helped lay natural gas pipeline in this neighborhood, bought 3 homes himself in this neighborhood. So to me, there's no way that I could lead any effort that discredits or disrupts the legacy on whose shoulders I stand. As I began this talk, I said, I am conscious that I am privileged to be a part of a story that began before I came and that will continue when I'm gone. Look, thank you for your time tonight. I don't know if you have questions. I'll hang around. I appreciate it.
I want to say thank you for what you do, Pastor Mills. Continue to be great at it. I also want to say this. We must do our part to take advantage of what's going on in the upstate right now. Do our part, man. It's up to us. It can't be a hand-me-down. It can't be a big in the ass thing. The opportunity is here to really create what we want to have in the upstate in Greenville, South Carolina.